We have a great episode for you today of Off Their Rockers. We've all heard you got to be financially prepared for retirement. Well, you need to be mentally prepared as well. That coming up here in just a second. And of course, want to remind you, I've got a couple of other podcasts. One particular you might like. It's called hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's. And I talk to experts, I talk to caregivers, I talk to friends and family members. I even talk to a few people who have been diagnosed with it, and we're following along on their journey. You got to talk about it, and hopefully we can help you if you're going through it with someone you love. You definitely need to check out hashtag Surviving Alzheimer's. Welcome to Off Their Rockers with your host, me, Dayna Steele, and Lisa Forehand, two women who have reinvented ourselves later in life and want to help other women do the same. We live, we love, we party, we travel, we have sex, we have insecurities, we dish, we do and feel almost all the same things we did in our 20s and 30s, but with a lot more wisdom these days. So no matter what age you are, join us as we visit with friends. You might learn something and even better, gain the courage to start a brand new adventure. This is Off Their Rockers, and your life starts now.
I'm trying to get this organized. Here we are.
Oh, that's a great setup. I love the little people sitting on your books. Oh my gosh, I love that.
This is brand new. First time using it. My son-in-law, when he was here with my daughter just a few weeks ago, came up and he said, "Well, I was going to do it over there." And he said, "No, you gotta make it yours. You gotta make it you." I'm like, "Okay, let's go. You guys
I
pick it."
like it. I like it. Well, it looks great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Um, you know, I hear the word retired. Like I was just filling out, more paperwork to go get a checkup, and it's like occupation. And it's so hard to explain what I do that I can get away with at now 66, just putting retired, just retired, because I don't want to try to even explain to somebody what I do. But a lot of people get really wrapped up in a title, in a job.
Mhm.
Um, and you get so wrapped up in it that you're almost embarrassed to say, I don't work or I don't have a job or something along those lines. So I'm just jumping in with that question. Why do
Okay.
people get so wrapped up into this? I mean, Lisa, you're not retired, but
So sure I'll ever retire, but I did make a big change in my 50s. And so I think I jumped into what my passion and my purpose is. I
Mhm.
had worked as a college instructor for years and then had a car accident and I could no longer travel like I was because I was going to various campuses. So anyway, so I jumped into the entertainment world and have been producing films and dabbling in writing, and so I
you were
don't
forced to, you were kind of forced to go, okay, I've got to pivot. So
right, and my passion. So, but we are recording. I wanted to mention that.
yeah. So Lorraine Wiseman, why is
Yes.
retired a dirty word?
Oh my gosh, it's an interesting question, and I'm happy to share, some of what I've learned over the past 3 years as I've been deep diving this topic. Um, I think there's a stigma attached to retirement. First of all, people think you need to be happy. Everybody thinks that, you've hit your golden years. Of course, you've earned the right to retire, but and everybody talks about the money. But what the stigma that's attached to it, I think, is everybody expects you to be happy, and sometimes you're not. And you don't want to say you're not. And then the other thing that happens is, to your point, was people have lost touch with who they are. They think they are their job. They think they are that title. I was the CEO of this. I used to be this. I was that. And they're not comfortable in their own skin with identifying with, well, who are you? It's amazing. When I lived in Europe and was running companies over there, people would ask, tell me about yourself. Or I would ask people, tell me about yourself. And they never started with their jobs. They never started with their titles. They always started with who they are in life. And then they jumped into, oh, and by the way, I do this for a living. But I think the whole retirement thing is almost like a finish line. Like you hit a finish line. And I think it's a dirty word because people expect you to be finished, and you're not. You still have a lot to go. I love one person I chatted with. She retitled it. She said, "Let's not call it retirement. Let's call it repurposement."
Ooh,
And
I like that.
yeah,
Yes.
isn't that cool? Yeah, come up with something new. It's just it's time to do the next thing. And I always say I've graduated into this next chapter of life. I coach CEOs, but I would say I'm retired. I'm retired from the corporate world. I don't do that anymore. But I do still have purpose, and I still have lots of things I can do and share and give and live without calling it retired.
Now, when you coach a CEO, what are you coaching them? What are you teaching them?
I would say to you, I teach them a lot of things. It started off because I did business turnarounds for a living. That's what I did. So I would, companies would get in a hot mess. They'd bring me in, and I would dig it out and then hand over the keys to the next leader. So people, when they first started working with me, they thought about me as the business coach and okay, she's going to be able to help me get to this next phase in my business, and she's going to keep me out of trouble. She's going to help me with my leadership. And sure enough, I can do those things, and I have done those things. But it's amazing once you've earned trust and respect and that relationship, if you will, people start to lean in and say, okay, now what? So I found myself coaching people into this transition. So as they are selling their company, or as they are deciding, okay, I don't want to spend all this time, I spend a couple of years ahead of time. If I'm given the privilege of time of 2 years ahead to get them ready psychologically and socially ready for whatever that next chapter is, I'll spend a lot of time in that space as well. And that's the space that I really do love, is helping people get to that next chapter successfully, without the hangups, without the baggage that goes along with it, and with knowing who they are. Yeah,
Lisa and I have talked to a lot of people recently that it seems like this keeps coming up, and that is repurposing yourself,
yeah,
finding yourself. Lisa found hers a little bit earlier on. I've fallen into being an actor,
yeah.
something I wanted to do a million years ago and just thought that was dead. But how do you teach somebody the mental? I mean, we all know if you're going to retire, you got to have the money, you got to pay the bills, whatever.
That's
Um,
easy.
yeah, that's the easy part.
Mhm.
Um, how do you mentally prepare somebody to repurpose? I'm using that word. I'm
You
stealing
go
it.
ahead. It's yours. You can have it. It was another good friend of mine's. But in any case, how I start with getting them to understand themselves. So I'll do a deep dive on, who are you? Tell me about your core values. What are your non-negotiables in life? And if you're choosing who you spend time with and what you want to do, what are those non-negotiables? So, as I started to reinvent myself, I went down the path of, okay, look, I've spent a lot of time with apes in my life. And these are my terrible acronyms, but arrogant, prideful, egotistical folks, where
Whoa. Preach,
literally just
preach, preach,
they just
Lorraine.
suck the life out of you. They would just drain every ounce of energy. So I decided, when I go into this next chapter, I have a qualifier. No apes allowed. I am not going to spend time with folks that are just looking for a podium and a place to
And
pontificate.
it's such a nicer word than asshole.
It sure is, and the people can infer whatever they want, but anyway, call it what you will. Call it what you will. I am not into that. So, helping the people that I spend time with, what are your non-negotiables? What is it that given the time, and you've got whatever time you've got left on this world, on this earth, let's figure it out. What are your non-negotiables in life? So start there. So that's really your core values, understanding who you are, what's important to you. And then I move in and I do something with them, with the folks that I do with I did with my kids when they were going off and trying to figure out who they wanted to be when they grew up. I've done it with career coaching in business turnarounds where I'd be given a leadership team and I'd be sitting there going, okay, every one of these people has great strengths, but they're in the wrong seat. What do I need to do to move them around? So I get people to just kind of look at themselves. I do an assessment. Actually, I've got the book right here. I use this Strength Finders 2.0. Tom Rath, just love this guy. I've been using him as long as he's been around. And I get people to do a strength analysis. And when I talk about strengths, I'm not talking about stuff you're good at. I'm talking about stuff that brings you energy. So when you're doing it in a day, so if I have the privilege of time, I'll ask the CEO, just not, keep a little notebook. And when you've enjoyed something and all of a sudden at the end of the day, you have more energy than you had at the beginning of the day, I want you not to judge it. Don't try to figure it out. Just write it down. What were you working on? What were you spending your time with? And then we start to peel back the onion to say, okay, and I'll give you a great example of this. And then I do the opposite and say, okay, where was the energy suck? Where were the things that you spent time on that you're looking at your watch at 10 o'clock going, I got to get out of here. This is not, this really sucks. So
More mental preparation for retirement with Lorraine Wiseman in just a few minutes. Remember to sign up for my fax email I send out every day. If you follow me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, any of those, you can probably read the facts there. But if you want to make sure you get the list every single morning, go to daynasteele.com, DAYNASTEELE. Click on facts and sign up for today's facts. It's a short list of facts, nonpartisan, not Republican, not Democrat, not Martian, just facts based on the top stories and viral posts of the day. You know, some of those posts, are they true or are they false? daynasteele.com. Sign up for today's facts.
one guy that I interviewed for my dissertation on this topic. I just love this guy. He was a vice president of sales for a pharmaceutical company. So this guy, he traveled the world. He went from city to city to city. And the one thing he loved to do was he'd hit the local dive bar. And he would go and sit at a bar and chat up whoever was next to him. And he really struggled after he retired. He and his wife moved to 5 different states in the first 6 months, and finally his wife said to him, "Look, I'm done. If we're going to be miserable, you're going to be miserable. We're going to be miserable next to my grandchildren, so I can go and spend time with them, and you can go figure it out." So he ended up hanging out at this local craft beer place in Phoenix. And the guy that owned the place said, "Hey, do you want a job?" And he said, "No, no, no, no. I'm retired. I don't want to work. I'm good." And he said, "No, seriously." He said, "Every time you come in here, I'll pay you whenever you show up. You can drink all the beer you want. Just stand on this side of the table instead of that side of the table." Why? Because he was so good at chatting up the customers
Okay.
that he just enjoyed it. He had a passion for it. Well, his number one strength is something called woo. He gets energy from introducing and meeting brand new people for the first time. So that's what brings him energy. So guess what? He found his strength. He figured out how to take his strength and use it in a different way. Now I have 100 of those stories, if not more. But he's one of my favorite guys because he just couldn't figure it out. He just kept moving cities, up and buy a new house, up and buy a new house, and then he finally
Oh, I
found.
would have killed him.
I would have too. I would have. I mean, after that, I would not have done that. But anyway, she must love him to pieces. But anyway, that just gives you an example. So I spend time on the personal identity to try to figure out how do those skills transfer into a different world, right? Into a different space. And we all have them. We all have our gifts. We all have the things that bring us energy. We just have to figure out what does that look like in a different environment.
I'm going to turn the tables and ask Lisa a question because you were kind of forced in your 50s to leave academia, but you turned it into pursuing something that you'd always wanted to do and producing films and writing scripts and editing. I mean, she's so incredibly talented, Lorraine.
Wow.
Did you automatically go, that's what I'm going to do because that's what I've always wanted to do, or did you have to find your woo?
I did, I did an informal, sort of took my own internal inventory
Yeah.
about very similar to what you were talking about. So I thought about what have I had passion in that was energetic, that gave me energy. And it went all the way back to my childhood, to my sixth grade year, where we had this fabulous open environment. And that's what I did. I created plays. I got all my friends together. I wrote scripts and we put all those plays on once a week. And it was energizing. So I thought, oh, that's what I'm going to dabble in, go back to and see where it goes. And you are correct. It's very energizing. That's why the thought of retirement, I don't even want to. I mean, because it's creative and it's energizing to me. So that's how I discovered that. And I was, like you said, a little bit forced to. But I also jumped into teaching because I was a single mom with kids. They were getting ready to go to college when I got my degrees. In fact, I loved reading your dissertation, by the way, because I come from academia. So I
Oh,
and it was refreshing in some ways to read a dissertation because I'm reading so many other creative works right now.
After
So
I read Charlie's on thermophysics and plasma dynamics, I'm sorry, I'm not reading your
it's a
dissertation.
little different. Yours is kind of right in my alley. So yes, so I've enjoyed that.
One of
great.
the things that you talk about is, we're talking about this mentally preparing yourself because if you don't, people once they retire, and you really talk about this a lot, Lorraine, they find themselves with a lot of stress and headed into a depression. And those are two things that come up so often on my other podcast, hashtag surviving Alzheimer's.
Oh,
These
wow.
are the things that lead to cognitive decline. They are two of the biggest culprits are depression and stress. So yet another reason to prepare for the retirement or that repurposing. What are some things people can do other than finding their woo? I like that. Woo, I
Okay.
love that.
So let's just give you a little bit of the statistic to start with. This year alone, 4.2 million people will be of retirement age. And by the way, that's a stat that I can't stand. Retirement age. What is
Now,
that?
what is that?
What is that, right? It was created by the government to, because we become eligible for Social Security at the age of 65. So 65 has to be this age. So it's this artificial timeline that's been imposed on us based on benefits. So if we could just get rid of all that, and I mean, I understand why we did it back in the day because we had to create room for all these boomers coming into the workforce, myself included, and people had to move out. So we had to give them an age to move out. Otherwise, they wouldn't move out, but retirement. So we got these 4.2 million people of retirement age. Um, those that retire within the first 6 months, 28% of them will be in a clinical depression.
Ugh.
It's a sad statistic, and it is preventable. It is preventable, and it really starts with having those conversations. Preparing yourself mentally to say, "I'm going to do something different." Now, there's two aspects of it. It's your personal identity, which I just shared with you. A little bit about personal identity and deep diving, but the other part of it is your social identity because we're built for connection. We're built to have conversations. We're built to be with other people. We're not built to be isolated. And what happens is people think that their friends are the people they work with. And then they leave the workplace and they realize with very, very quickly that's not where their friends are. It's interesting. One person that I worked with, and I've been working with this guy for 8 years, and so I had the time with him ahead of time. And then he was like, Lorraine, I got this. I've got this. I've got this. And he became one of the statistics where he ended up in clinical depression in the first 6 months. And he called me. He said, "You said this was going to happen." And I believed you, but I didn't believe it would happen to me. But what happened was he had lost all of his social connection, walking down the hall, meeting with people. So we have to figure out a way of transferring those relationships. Where is it that you want to spend your time? And how do we keep you sharp? By keeping you connected, by having those conversations. The social interaction will help keep you sharp. And then keeping you interested in other things, with your strengths. So the social connection piece is a big one. Um, I use something called a social identity map, which is where I get people just draw me the bubbles. Draw me the bubbles of your life. Show me how much time, and the size of the bubble depends on how much time you spend there. And then I want you to color them. Color them green, yellow, red. Green for most important, red for the least important. Now, those people that have green is the most important and the highest percentage of their time is work, there we need to spend a lot more time to get them ready because they have to get out there. We have to reconnect them with society in a way that's not attached to the business that they're in.
We'll have more from Lorraine here in just a second, but I wanted to take this moment to update you on The Woman in the Mirror. It is my dark comedy play based on my book, Surviving Alzheimer's with Friends, Facebook, and a really big glass of wine. We just finished a great 2 week run at the K Palace Theater in Sierra Vista, south of Tucson. Thank you so much to everyone there. And we have our sights set on the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, Scotland, next August, and then hopefully off Broadway after that. Between now and then, we do hope to get booked in a few more smaller theaters around the country, and I will let you know when that happens.
Um, Sharp, keep sharpening that saw and
I,
build
I
through
saw
social.
Wonder Husband start to go into this. He was a pilot for 30 years. He flew the 747 with the space shuttle on top and trained all the astronauts. And then he went on to be a consultant for safety in corporations. And in the last couple of years, he's started to repurpose. And I saw that depression coming, and it was like, oh, no, 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 no. So I started sending him to the Air Museum and booked a couple of speeches for him. And, he's such a good speaker when he talks about how do you put a space shuttle on top of a 747? Who came up with that crazy idea? So yeah, I was like, I got to find things to keep you busy.
Yes.
You don't keep asking me what's for dinner right after breakfast.
I, I'm I am so curious if in either your dissertation work or your personal work with various people, if you see any kind of gender differences between women and men,
I
because
do.
yeah, I would imagine. I
I
get
do, except in my dissertation, I'll qualify this because in my dissertation, my research, my participants that I interviewed were all high-level executives.
Mhm.
So high-level executives have there's a higher probability that their identity is attached to their work.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So regardless of gender. But in my practice, in my professional practice, women have a tendency to be more social. Women have a tendency to have a network outside of the workplace. And unless you're down here, I'm in South Carolina, so the golfing here is great. The men have a tendency to group on the golf course, but if you don't like golf, now you've got a challenge. But yes, no, the women have an easier time. And I'm also going to throw faith in there. Those folks that have a strong community within whatever faith they belief system they happen to be participate in, those that are really connected with that community seem to ease into it in a different way. So that's why I go back to this social identity
Right.
because it's the community, right? Because all of a sudden there's a risk here. There's a risk, and I'll tell you because a lot of people will direct people, oh, you can volunteer here, you can volunteer there. And then but what happens is people get voluntold, they don't volunteer. They get voluntold to go here and they get voluntold to go there. And their heart is not in it. They're not passionate about whatever that is. And it's just a place to spend time and they still end up in depression because they're not doing what brings meaning to them
They're
or
not
brings
engaged. Yeah, they're
yeah,
just, yeah.
yes, So they're being voluntold because that people perceive them to now have time. So, and it's not what they want to do. And then you've got the women who are being volunteered. I'm a grandmother. I've got three grandbabies. I love my grandbabies to pieces, but I see some of my peers who have been volunteered to become a full-time caregiver to
They're
their
the
grand.
nanny.
Yes, so they're raising the next generation of kids. Now, is that what they want to do? If that's what they want to do, amen. Have at it. Enjoy it. Love it. But if they aren't, if that's not what they really want to do, again, they end up in this depression because their time has gone from being all day at work to all day caregiving, and now where are they? The other thing that I've seen is when it comes to the caregiving is the opposite end, where we're taking care of our parents and the next generation or the generation before us, and they didn't plan for that either.
No, there's a lot of that. As we wrap this up, is there something that we didn't touch on?
Um, Really, if I really want to think about it, I would say to you the biggest thing is try to get in touch with who you are sooner than later, right? If we can start this in our 20s, we don't have to wait until 65, this artificial age, but really getting in touch with what brings you joy. I love Dr. Arthur Brooks' work, Strength to Strength. Understand where your strengths are. Understand that this is going to happen. Um, it's going to happen to all of us. And, if we get older 1 year, it's great, but then we have new things to experience. So, whatever we can do to prepare ourselves, um, embrace your love, embrace the acting, the
Oh
playwriting,
yeah, I mean, oh, it's
Right?
terrifying. It's
all the stuff.
terrifying, but I feel so alive that
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've done something new, and
Oh
that,
my gosh.
And
Yeah.
there it is,
yeah,
right?
still get paid to talk. I'm
Yeah.
figuring out a way to keep doing it. All
Well,
right, I'll
I'm
throw it at you,
sorry.
Lisa.
Yes. So if somebody wanted to contact you or find you, how would they? Through your website? You've got a
Yes.
great website. It's full of resources too.
Thank you. Leadingthewiseway.com. You can see it behind me here, leadingthewiseway.com. You can find me there. I have my contact details there. You can sign up to pre-order the book that's on its way. It's called Becoming a Previously Important Person, Rediscovering Your Purpose in
I
Retirement.
love that.
I love that. I saw that
That's
title.
great. And I think it was, you said it's your son-in-law. Tell him your backdrop. It's fabulous.
Thank you.
I,
Good tip.
as a visual and Lisa as a television producer, I don't know. I think I see her set.
Oh,
I
yeah. Oh,
see
well,
the
so
set.
much is conveyed just at a glance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes,
It's
and you
great.
are a wealth of knowledge. So I hope people that would seek you out.
Yeah. Well,
Now,
I'm happy
before we
to.
let you go, just because I have to get this line in there, do you have a final word of wisdom?
Wisdom. Yes. And we call those wise words, or my kids call them wisemanisms. So, yes.
Wisemanisms. I need a wisemanism to wrap this up.
So lean into your strength, live your life to the fullest. I would not, don't let the world tell you when it's time. You decide at your pace. It's your day, it's your game. Go ahead, and make it yours. Lean into your strengths and love the people around you.
What a pleasure speaking to Lorraine Wiseman. Everything we talked about that has a link, you will find those links in this podcast description, wherever you are watching or listening to the podcast. And you know what? Stay in touch with us. Let us know who you think we should talk to, or if we should talk to you. If you'd like to be on an episode of Off Their Rockers, you can contact me through the website, daynasteele.com, DaynaSteele. Thanks for listening to Off Their Rockers. You can join hosts Dayna Steele, me, and Lisa Forhan as we continue to discover women around the world living their life to its fullest and then some. Are you one of these women? We want to talk to you. Let us know at daynasteele.com. Off Their Rockers is produced by JFA Inc., executive producer Dayna Steele. Copyright JFA Inc.